Welcome to Dental Business RX. Practice success in 30 minutes or less.
Thank you for calling ABC Dental.
There was a story I heard about, 30 years ago from Dr. Winteregg, who's one of the founders of the company, that I've heard variants of throughout my career. And it goes something like this. So back in the early 90s, Dr. Winteregg is in practice, and he goes through a month. It was actually a couple of months where he's getting, 10, 12, 14 new patients. And he notices that maybe a handful of these few new patients are referrals, meaning people referred into his practice by other patients. And it finally came to a head one day when he's in his front desk area. And keep in mind, this is the early 90s, so back then it was still paper charts. And he looks at this wall of charts, thousands and thousands of patients that he has. And he's in a smaller community, so wasn't a ton of other doctors. Maybe, actually it was quite dense, actually, based on the amount of doctors to patient ratio. But beside the point, he looks at all these charts and he thinks, how is it that with all of these patients, I only got 6 referrals last month? What am I doing wrong? And this is a story I've heard variants of throughout my career. Obviously, for many of you listening, probably the vast majority, 99%, you don't have a wall of charts to look at anymore, but you can look at the number of records in your software, and you go through a particular month where you look at how many referrals you've gotten, and if you do look at these things, and you wonder, how am I getting so few new patient referrals? What am I doing wrong? And obviously this is important because, number one, we all want more new patients. And number two, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but new patient referrals tend to be the best new patients, right? Because they have some degree of connection to your practice. They're not just responding to a Google pay-per-click ad or, a post you made on Facebook. So this brings us to the question of why are you not getting more referrals? And that's what I want to talk about in this week's episodes. I want to get into why are you not getting more referrals? Because you should be getting a ton of new patient referrals, because there's certain conditions that should be present in your practice that encourages referrals. And then from there, I want to talk about 2 ways that you can start practicing right now to get more new patient referrals come Monday. My name is Jeff Blumberg, and I'm your host. And why don't we just start with the why? So why are you not getting more referrals? Well, let's look at the conditions that would have to be present in order to get a referral. Let's take it out of the dental realm for a second. And I want you to think about a particular business that you've referred other people to. Doesn't matter what the business is. It can be an auto repair shop. It could be a restaurant. For instance, there's this local restaurant here in the Tampa Bay area. It's actually in a city called Dunedin that I'm particularly enamored to. And I was thinking about this as I was doing this episode, and I must have referred, 10 people to this restaurant. The name of the restaurant, by the way, is called Sally's Bistro. Shout out to Sally's Bistro. If you're ever in this area, definitely check this place out. It's a little Belgian restaurant, and it's great. My wife's Dutch, so they serve a lot of similar food. But, I took a look at what is it that makes me want to refer people there. Because it's not like the place is super fancy. It's not even that. It's not super expensive. As a matter of fact, it's not even it's in a kind of, not great strip mall. Well, what makes me want to refer people there? The food is amazing and the service is great. The people are nice. Even if things are busy and it's not moving super fast, it's friendly. It's got a really nice vibe. It's like a neighborhood type hangout, but the food is just unbelievable. That chef at Sally's Bistro can just she's amazing. So the point being is I am overly impressed with their service and their food. I'm very happy with the place to the point where I'm enthusiastically referring others to go to this restaurant. That's the point, right? And you could do this for yourself. Take a look at any business you've ever referred another person to, and what was it about that business that made you refer people there? And it usually has to do, it fit a need for you. You were very pleased with how you were handled. You liked the service and you liked the product. That's usually what it comes down to. So if you want to get more referrals, the first condition you want to have is not necessarily that you as the doctor or you as the staff member are pleased with your practice. It's, are the patients pleased with your practice? And this is where we hit an interesting point. Because having dental work done isn't the same as eating food, okay? Or even having a service provided. It is a service, but you might be in pain. It's not necessarily something that you want to do every day, okay? So what would make a patient happy? And this is where you get this you have what you think makes a patient happy and what actually makes a patient happy. And you should test this for yourself, meaning you should look into this for yourself to see if what I'm saying resonates with what you find in your office. Where it goes wrong is people think what makes patients happy is doing exactly what they want. So, patient A needs 6 crowns and insurance is only going to cover 2. So we're only doing 2 crowns this year, 2 next year, 2 the year after, and so on. Or we're leaving them with active disease because they don't want to pay to fix that active disease or something like this. That's going to make people happy, right? We're not going to ruffle any feathers. Or we're going to take this new patient and they need all this treatment, but we're not going to tell them they need all this treatment now. We're just going to tell them about the perio now because we don't want to blow them out of the water. That's how you make people happy. Most cases, that is not how you make people happy. The way you make people happy is by taking care of all of the issues that they have so that they're really happy with what happened in your practice. Obviously, you also have to have good customer service and your staff have to be friendly and attentive and you want to make the service as rapid as possible. These are sort of no-brainers. We know this. I don't think I have to tell anybody that you shouldn't leave a patient in your reception area waiting for 20 or 30 minutes with no communication. I mean, that's just, if someone doesn't know that, that to me is human common sense. I'm sure there are people who don't know that, but I would suspect most of you know this, okay? Because you take a look at what would upset you from a customer service perspective. But let's look at it from the dental treatment perspective for a second. If I have a patient who comes in and they need 6 crowns, and they really need them all now. They don't just need 2 now and 2 next year and 2 the year after. They need them all now. And I spend the time and I'm attentive as the doctor and answer all of their questions, and I really care enough about them to make sure that they get what they need and more importantly, that they understand what they need and why so that they get it done. They're now happy. They got all of their dental problems taken care of. They're also trained on how to take care of themselves at home. I've given them some home care instructions and I've made their dental health very important to them. Well, that person is going to be more likely to refer somebody to my practice than somebody I did just what insurance covered, or the new patient that I only told about the perio treatment, even though they need a ton of restorative treatment. So what that comes back to really is sales, believe it or not. And again, going back to this with Dr. Wintereg, when he first learned to sell, it's interesting, his referrals immediately shot up without taking any further action. Why? Because he was bringing people in, taking care of them, and then putting them back out into the community, and they were thrilled with having their full treatment plans completed. So whenever the subject of dentistry or the need for a dentist came up, they told people about his office. I mean, you could look at it from even a cosmetic perspective or even a combo of disease and cosmetics for a second. Let's say I've got, broken down teeth in the front of my mouth and, maybe I was just going to fix this one because that's what insurance will cover and you handle me to go, I really understand why I need to fix them all now. I get them all fixed up. I go to work. I mean, don't you think people are going to notice that? They go, wow, Jeff, you look great. Your teeth are all, they look amazing. Hey, I'm seeing Dr. Smith. And Dr. Smith, I just wanted to do what my dental insurance covered. But Dr. Smith showed me why I need to fix this now. I'm so glad I fixed this now. I look great. I love my smile now. Maybe they wouldn't say they look great or I wouldn't say that, but I really love my smile now. Do you see? So that's a person who's an active, almost, they're actively promoting your business. Okay. They're out there telling others about the wins and the successes they had in their business, and they would like in your business rather, and they want other people to share in those same wins. That's the basic conditions you want to have in place that will actually encourage referrals. So it isn't just great customer service. It's also results with your patients. And by results, ideally, they're getting all the treatment that they need. Economics considered, of course, that would actually put them in a condition where they've repaired or they're on the route to better oral health. Okay. That's the object. So that's why sales is very important. That's actually critical to getting more referrals. To that end, if you want to learn to sell better, this is my first of 2 shameless plugs in the podcast. You might want to check out the MGE Sales and Communications seminars. They're for the profession. We teach you how to communicate in such a way that patients want what they need. I'll put a link to it on the episode webpage, but it's not uncommon where we have clients come in, they do those seminars, their sales improve, their treatment acceptance improves, they're doing more full treatment, and they immediately start to get more referrals without really doing anything else. Now, that being said, we want to have some degree of control over our referrals. So let's talk about things that you can do to get more referrals. And I've talked about this, I believe, in prior episodes, but it was a while ago. It might have been back in 2021. I think I had Sabri on, and we talked about the 2 different types of patient referrals. Now, one, you probably know about, and you may even be doing something about. The other, I would guarantee you that 90+% of the people listening to this don't do, or if they do it, it's sporadic or they're not doing enough. So let's talk about these two types of referrals. There's controlled and uncontrolled referrals. This is how Sabria, who I've had on the podcast before, describes it. This was sort of how she was explaining it. So that's where the idea came from. I want to make sure I attribute to who it belongs to. So let's talk about uncontrolled referrals first, because this is what most people do. It's some form of a referral program. For instance, we have a program that we give to clients usually during the MGE New Patient Workshop, and it's called the Care to Share program. So what is that? It's basically a card that you give to a patient. The patient signs it. It's a business card size, usually a double folding business card. And they give it to their friends and family, and it has some form of a new patient special on it. And if that friend or family member brings the card in, they get some sort of a discount on their initial visit in your practice. So, again, to play it out, you give me one of these cards, I sign it, I give it to my friend Joe. Joe comes in and he gets $50 off his first appointment. Now, obviously, the way that program works, number one, it's very inexpensive. You just have to print double folding business cards. You could print a bunch for $50. It's very cheap. Then you actually have to give these cards out. So how would that work? Your hygienist might give them out. Your front desk might give them out. You normally would give them to happy patients, patients who have gotten a result, right? Or the doctor might even give them out at the completion of a big treatment plan, or the assistant. You could figure out how you want to do this in your practice. And if I'm not mistaken, on our online platform, DDS Success, under the new patient referral training section, we have some demos of how a hygienist would give the card out. Okay. And the nice thing about this is then the person walks out with these cards and they give them to friends, and then these cards come back, and it's great. You spent little to nothing on these things, and you get referral patients, which are the type of patients you want anyway. And it sort of beefs up the referral concept. I'm talking to somebody, they're talking about going to a dentist, and I fish this card out of my wallet. Oh, I got this from my doctor gave me this. You can actually save $50 off your first appointment. It encourages the new patient to go. We call this uncontrolled because you can give out cards, but you can't really control how many of these are going to come back. Over time, you can build up metrics on, if I give out X amount of cards, I get this many referral patients. But I have zero control when I give somebody one of these cards as to when they're going to give it to somebody else and that person's going to come into the practice. So that's why we call this uncontrolled. Similarly, even if I didn't have a card involved and I just told somebody, hey, nothing makes us happier than when people refer us their friends and family. If you know anybody who needs a dentist, please send them to us. I have no idea when they're going to tell anybody about me or the office, and I have no idea when I'm going to see a result of that. So it's uncontrolled. Now, I will leave as a download, we have a Care Enough to Share program, or the Care to Share program. It gives you step-by-step how to execute this, also a sample of the card. I'll leave it as a download on the episode webpage if you want to download it for yourself and do it in your practice. It's very simple. And like I said, even if you're only getting 5-6 new patients a month off this, your acquisition costs are a business card. It's cheap as all get out, so worth trying. So that's uncontrolled. Let's talk about controlled for a minute, because you may be doing some form of uncontrolled referral program right now. You are probably not doing controlled referrals, and this is where you can actually really see your referrals go out the roof. This is what controlled referrals are. So let's say I'm taking a new patient call. I'm your receptionist or your new patient coordinator in your practice. So on my intake form, in addition to whatever other questions I might ask, which, we have an intake form we've given out before, and usually intake forms are, lacking from what I've seen. Ours is a bit more complete. But, I'm asking questions like when the last time they saw a dentist was, did that dentist recommend any treatment? Did you do it? Is there anything you want to talk to the doctor about? Because I'm kind of getting a gauge of what's going on with this patient, right? Are you in pain? Where are you in pain? Which part of your mouth? Which tooth is it if they know? I'm not going to ask for a tooth number, but is it on the right side of your mouth, upper or lower? So I'm asking all this. Now, obviously, unless if it's an emergency patient and they're in pain, I'm not going to do this. But if it's just, a normal initial appointment or whatever, I'm going to ask a question along the lines of, and you can figure out however you're most comfortable asking this question, but I'm going to ask a question to the effect of, is there anybody else in your household who needs to see a dentist? Or that, doesn't have a dentist, or however you want to ask this question. Is there anybody in your household who needs to see a dentist? Because the average U.S. household has 3 people in it. Okay. So if I get 10 new patient calls, technically, on average, if I'm doing real well, I could potentially convert up to 30 people as new patients. Now, am I going to get all of them? No, because some may have dentists. Some may only have one person in the household. But you may think, and we've run these experiments with our clients. This is one of the benefits of being around as long as we have and not getting stale is we run experiments like this. We'll have clients come in and say, especially a newer client, oh, I have a family practice. Okay. So what to us means that they're seeing the whole family, seeing the kids, the mom, dad, etc. So I remember when we ran this experiment on a few different offices, we came up with some averages. Here's what it worked out to be. I have a family practice. So we would ask 2 questions. All right. Can you get the list of the number of patients you've seen in the last 2 years? So they give us that number. Okay. All right, good. Now give me out of those last 2 years, those patients in the last 2 years, give me how many unique addresses you have. Meaning if that practice saw 1,000 patients in the last 2 years, which would be low, but just work with me here for, numbers' sake. They saw 1,000 patients. On average, those 1,000 patients came from 800 unique addresses. So what that means is that they're seeing only 1 to 1.2 people from each household. So they're not a family practice. Do you see? This is what's common. Because ideally, if they saw 1,000 people, that should be from 333 households or 400 households. That's a family practice. Instead, there were 800 households. That's how the numbers worked out. For every 1,000 patients, it was usually 800 unique addresses. So you're probably not seeing everybody is the point. So that would be the first thing I would do for new patient calls. Anybody else need to see a dentist? Get those people scheduled as well. And to that end, if you're going to run a controlled referral program, actually if you're going to run any type of a referral or marketing program, you should have some form of a consistent new patient special. Now, you may find that uncomfortable or whatever. We're in the era of marketing. You got to offer something. What might that new patient special be? I've seen all kinds of different ones. What are the most common? A discounted exam, x-ray, and consultation. Meaning full mouth x-ray, exam, and consultation, or an exam, a cone beam and a consultation, because, a cone beam, the machine's not cheap, but cone beams aren't expensive. And you do it for like a discounted price, whatever you might $69, $59, $79, whatever that might be. It might be a cleaning, full mouth x-ray, and exam, and for X amount of dollars, however you want to do it. You have some form of a new patient special, and that new patient special, you might have a couple different new patient specials, but don't have too many or it gets confusing. But those new patient specials should be consistent in all of your advertising. So if I'm advertising a $59 exam, x-rays, and consultation, that would be in my I'd have some PPC for that, pay-per-click. My postcard might have that on there amongst one of the couple of different new patient offers I have. And it would be also on my Facebook ad. So it's an ad that's pretty consistent across all marketing channels. Okay. But add this consistent new patient special. So this helps especially with these controlled referrals, because if I'm taking this new patient call, at the end, I could say, oh, and by the way, does anybody else in your household need to see a dentist? Well, yeah, my wife hasn't seen the dentist in a couple of years. Okay, good. Well, we can get her scheduled as well. As a matter of fact, we have a new patient special right now. It's only $59 for blah, blah, blah. Now, what's the liability of that? Let's say the person I've talked to hasn't asked for a new patient special. Well, I may have just, lost some money there, right? Because they're going to want it too if I'm giving it to their wife. Well, big deal. If I get somebody in, because keep in mind, if I'm scheduling them, their wife, and their 2 kids in one phone call, I got 4 new patients. You see? So if, let's say, to get that new patient phone call, let's say I did it, that person called in off of one of my postcards. All right. And let's say I sent out, 10,000 postcards and I got 50 phone calls. So I'm spending $200 for a phone call. All right. Well, if I can take that one call and turn that into 4 new patients, that phone call each new patient went from costing me $200 to costing me $50. You see? So I actually lower my acquisition costs when I ask for referrals at the point of contact, especially with a new patient. But we don't just do this with new patients. I definitely would start this. So remember, you need your new patient special. I would do this, and this is something you could start on Monday. Okay. Actually, I think the podcast comes out Monday. So you may not have a chance to do this Monday, maybe Tuesday. And you can go over this with your team. Start looking at every patient coming into the practice and get anybody in their household scheduled. All right. Now that could happen a number of different ways. They might have their spouse listed in their chart somehow. Maybe they're not the responsible party. Maybe it's some guy or girl and their spouse is the person with the dental insurance. Ask, hey, does Joe see a dentist? Well, we have a new patient special right now. We can get Joe scheduled right away. Or let's say somebody brings their spouse or kid to a dental appointment and they're not a patient and they're sitting in reception. They should be asked if they have a dentist. In other words, start talking to every single patient in the practice and find out if anybody in their household needs to see a dentist and then direct them right into the new patient special. Why do we call this controlled? Because in a lot of cases, if my wife was at the dentist, okay, and they told her this, hey, by the way, does Jeff have a dentist? And let's say I didn't, okay? No, he actually doesn't. And we've been looking, I've been thinking about getting him in here. Well, we have a new patient special right now. We should just go ahead and get him scheduled. She'd probably pick up the phone and go, Jeff, I'm at the doctor right now. I just finished with the dentist and, we've been talking about bringing you in. I should just get you scheduled to come in now. They have a new patient special. Okay. When can they see me? They said they can see you Thursday at 4. Can you be here? Yeah. And they would schedule me right then and there. Do you see? So that referral cost you 5 minutes of an employee's time. And if you're paying this employee, $26, or let's say you're paying them $30 an hour, it costs 5 minutes of their time, which is, what does that work out to be? $2. That's how much you spent on that referral. Okay. So that's controlled. That's something you could even look at. If you have, I think in one of the episodes way back, I talked about the morning production meeting. It's a variation of the morning huddle where you look at who's coming in that day and what treatment they have outstanding and so on. It's sort of where you figure out your sales opportunities for the days. You could take a look at who's coming in that day and have they referred any family members to the practice. And you could target each of these patients and talk to them. Hey, by the way, if anybody in the household needs to see a dentist, we have a new patient special. We should get them scheduled. Now, will everybody schedule people right on the spot? No, but you'll probably get quite a few that will. And, I don't mean to sound, I don't want to gender stereotype, but let's be real here for a second. Definitely if my wife's at the doctor and wants me to see that doctor, she's probably just scheduling me. Whereas if I scheduled her, I would probably be, I don't know, I'd be in trouble. Let's just put it that way. But the point being, that's how it works for me. So in a lot of cases, people are going to schedule people. So I would just do that, right? And that's something you can control because then you could take a look at, you'll start to get some metrics. If we talk to 10 people, 3 people schedule immediately, you're getting 3 new patients a day scheduled that way. You're open 4 days a week. Now you're getting 50 referral patients a month. And that's control. And it doesn't just end there. It's not just new patients. It's not just patients of record. It's anybody who walks in your door. The UPS guy, the mail carrier, the person delivering your bottled water, anybody walking in is a potential new patient. And, I've told this story before, but to me, it just sticks out because it was so funny. Sabri, who again, many of you have heard on the podcast before, our deputy chief operating officer, was at a local client's office here, not that far away. And she's at their practice and they had the water shut off all of a sudden, which of course we know is horrible in dental practice. So of course they had to call a plumber. So they called the plumber over and the plumber's missing 1 or 2 front teeth. So he's happily working away and nobody says anything to him other than, what's plumbing related? Well, Sabri goes, have you guys talked to this guy? He probably needs a dentist. And they hadn't done it. So to show them what could be done, she went up to the guy and very nicely, without, making him feel bad or whatever, said, hey, this is a great dental office. Have you ever thought about having your teeth fixed? And he had been to another practice and he didn't like the experience he'd had. Yeah, they told me I need to spend tens of thousands of dollars, blah, blah, blah. And Sabri said, look, these guys are really good. I would definitely give them a shot. And I think they have a new patient special right now. And they did. So he scheduled. It was an $8,000 or $10,000 case. But that was just, the person was there. So, we could go all crazy about this. Let's send out all this marketing, which you should, because you'll get referrals from those people too. Or even I've seen these referral conversations made into almost like this really serious talk. You're going to sit down with the patient. Hello, I just wanted to let you know the best compliment people can pay me is when, or are you happy with your services? And just so you know, the best compliment people can pay this practice is when they refer their friends and family. Like you're having this big discussion. It's not that serious, folks. Just talk to everybody in the practice, see who in their household needs to see a dentist, refer them into the new patient special. And I've seen practices do this and get 5, 10 more new patients a week, spending nothing. And then your marketing becomes even that much more effective because then all the marketing calls get asked the same question. And instead of getting one new patient off that marketing call, you get 2, 3, 4, sometimes more. Okay. And again, is there a next level to this? Well, yeah, we have some very enthusiastic practices in our client base, and they'll do stuff like the wrong number game, wrong number calls the practice. Hey, by the way, you have a dentist, and they've got new patients that way. But keep in mind, if the person is a human and has a mouth, that is a potential patient for your practice. So anybody who walks into the practice or is connected to the practice that is a human being is a potential patient. And that's the attitude you want to walk around with relation to new patient acquisition. And if you do this, you'll start to see your referrals. Obviously, you want to make sure you're selling well. Customer service is great. You do those two things, and you make sure that you've got an uncontrolled referral program going, because I would do that. And you do the controlled referral program, you will see your referrals go out the roof. And just as a last note on this, when would I use my care to share cards versus asking a person for referrals? Well, let's say I've talked to somebody and their whole family comes to the practice now. I talked to them. They brought in their husband, their kids see me too. Assuming you see kids, maybe not little kids or however you run your practice, up to you, right? But let's say I'm seeing everybody. Well, now we're in the uncontrolled referral realm because there's nobody in their household anymore that isn't seeing me. That's when I'm really pushing the care to share program with these folks. Hey, by the way, listen, we're so happy we're seeing your family. We're always accepting more new patients, and we do have a new patient special. I'm going to give you these cards. If you have any friends that you think that should be seeing this, you give them this card. They can actually save a couple bucks when they come in for their dental appointment. That's when you start to see, especially because they've already proven they can bring your referrals in with their family, then they start giving those cards out around the community to their friends, and you start to see more returns on the cards. Last thing I'll mention about the cards is don't give a person too many. Give them a couple. I think I told this story before, but it was kind of silly. When we were in Northern Virginia, this was years ago, the company used to be located there. We didn't have a client nearby. So the dentist I went to, I was referred to this dentist by one of my coworkers, really nice guy. And somehow I think my coworker had given them the care to share program just, to be nice. And so I become a new patient. I'm a new patient. I see the doctor. It was a nice experience. I'm checking out, and the receptionist hands me a mug. I guess you got a mug for being a new patient, like a coffee mug. And she had about 50 care to share cards stuffed in the mug. And it was weird. There was no communication attached to it at all. She just handed me the mug and said, "Here's a mug." And then I looked in and there's all these cards in it, which was kind of strange. You don't normally get a mug with cards in it. She didn't explain what they were for. Nothing. So being on the creating end of that program, we give this to our clients, and then seeing it returned to me that way was a little silly and funny. So make sure you don't give out too many. And, to that end, that download that I offered up explains how to do this. So if you want to check it out, download it and check it out. Anyway, that's all I have for you this week, folks. But this is something that can be a huge, huge boost to your practice. I urge you to try it. If it's not real to you, don't. But I would definitely suggest that you do. It can be a big boost. I hope this helps. And if you want to find out more about MGE, you can find us online at mgeonline.com or call us at 800-640-1140. Folks, have a great week, and we'll see you the next episode.